It was my son's birthday, and I wanted to surprise him with a game console. Buying a new one was beyond my budget, so I searched on Craigslist for a gently used Xbox. After days of scrolling, I came across a new listing that caught my eye. The seller had posted a listing an hour ago, so I quickly messaged them. Surprisingly, they replied, confirming that the Xbox was still available and that I could pick it up at 5 p.m. the next day. They gave me the address of their house, but something about it felt strange. Despite my instincts, I decided to go ahead with the meeting. The next day, I got ready to leave a bit earlier at 4:30 p.m., eager to get my hands on the console before someone else did. As I drove to the address, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The house was located down a secluded dirt road, adding to my unease. When I arrived, I knocked on the front door, but there was no answer. A dim light flickered from the back of the house, casting an eerie shadow on the porch. I knocked again, feeling a sense of discomfort growing inside me. Finally, the door creaked open. A tall, slender man with a wide grin greeted me. His eyes seemed empty, giving me an unsettling feeling in the pit of my stomach. He invited me inside, and as I followed him through the dimly lit hallway, a shiver ran down my spine. In the back room, the man pointed to the basement door and said, "The Xbox is right down there in storage." I hesitated, but when he walked ahead, I reluctantly followed him down to the basement. As we descended, I noticed the walls were covered with strange symbols and drawings. My heart raced, but I tried to keep my composure. In the dimly lit basement, the Xbox was sitting on the floor, looking out of place. "What about the missing part?" I asked nervously. "It still works," the man replied in a monotone voice, his grin never leaving his face. "Do you want it?" I cautiously approached the console, trying to ignore the growing sense of dread. As I got closer, the man suddenly lunged at me, knocking the Xbox aside. Panic surged through me, and I sprinted up the stairs, his footsteps echoing behind me. I burst out of the house just in time, slamming the door shut. I heard a loud bang from the inside, realizing the man had tried to shoot me. My hands trembled as I fumbled for my phone to call the police. Within minutes, the police arrived and searched the house. They found the man, but to my horror, he had disappeared. The basement was empty, with no trace of symbols or drawings. It was as if he had never been there. The hollow Xbox on the floor left me with an unsettling feeling. What was this man planning? Was he just trying to scam me, or was there something much darker behind it all? Since that terrifying encounter, I've become more cautious, especially when dealing with strangers online. I can't shake the feeling that there was something malevolent about that man in his house. Last month, I turned 20 and moved into a new apartment with my friends. Little did I know, this decision would lead me to a spine-chilling encounter. We found an affordable place in a somewhat shady neighborhood, and despite the warnings, we thought it couldn't be that bad. But as I soon discovered, the apartment was on the brink of a nightmarish ordeal. We split the costs, and each bought a few things for the place. I wanted a couch, so I checked out listings at an old website called Craigslist. The site was outdated, but I kept scrolling looking for a decent couch. Time passed, and I didn't receive any responses. Feeling frustrated, I finally got a message from a girl named Lily. Her couch wasn't my first choice, but it looked okay, so I decided to check it out. Lily gave me her address, which was in the heart of the neighborhood. As I approached the building, I felt a bit uneasy. It was run down, with bricks falling apart, and a rusty gate at the entrance. I pressed the buzzer, and the door slowly opened. I went up to the third floor and found a tired-looking woman with messy hair waving me into a dimly lit room. The apartment seemed empty, but as I stepped in, I called out for Lily, but there was no response. Suddenly, the door behind me opened, and a young woman asked if I was there for the couch. I must have mixed things up, but the couch looked okay, so I agreed to buy it. As we were moving it, I noticed the door across the hall was now closed, and I remembered the old lady trying to get my attention earlier. I mentioned it to the young woman, but she said the room had been vacant for months. I felt a shiver down my spine as I said goodbye and left. 2 men on the staircase gave me cold stares, making me feel even more uneasy. Driving away with the couch, I felt relieved, but something felt off. The place gave me the creeps, and I decided to never use Craigslist again and avoid that part of town. As I reflected on the strange encounter, I couldn't shake the feeling that something dangerous lurked in that apartment. What if I had gone further inside to meet that older lady? The thought sent chills down my spine. I couldn't get rid of that nagging feeling that I had narrowly escaped a sinister trap. It was as if the dark forces of the neighborhood had conspired to lure me into danger. From that day on, I couldn't forget the eerie encounter, and I became more vigilant, always trusting my instincts and staying safe. The memory of that day serves as a constant reminder to be cautious and never let my guard down, especially in unfamiliar places. It's a chilling lesson that taught me the importance of listening to my gut and avoiding situations that felt off. Last year, I decided to sell my office chair on Craigslist. It was a sleek modern chair, barely used, but I needed to get rid of it. I posted the listing, hoping to find a buyer who could pick it up soon. After a few days, I got a message from a man who was interested in buying the chair. His name was Mark, and he seemed friendly and eager to get the chair. We had a quick phone call, and he agreed to meet me at the nearby Starbucks parking lot to pick it up. On the day of the meeting, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. I loaded the chair into my car and headed to Starbucks. When I arrived, I saw a gray Honda Civic parked nearby. It looked like Mark's car, so I waited for him to approach. But minutes turned into an hour, and there was still no sign of Mark. I tried calling and texting him, but he didn't respond. I felt annoyed and disappointed, thinking that he had wasted my time. As the sun began to set, I decided to head back home. But as I drove, I noticed a car following me. It was a dark blue sedan, rusty and old. I couldn't shake the feeling that it was the same car I saw at Starbucks earlier. Feeling uneasy, I drove back to my house and parked in the driveway. The dark blue sedan parked right in front of my house, and I knew something was wrong. I hurried inside, locking all the doors behind me. I peeked through the blinds and saw a figure in dark clothing standing beside the car. It was Mark, but there was something off about him. His eyes seemed empty and his smile sent shivers down my spine. I called 911 explaining the situation, and they said they would send an officer right away. But as I watched from the window, Mark disappeared from sight. I checked the back of the house, but he wasn't there either. Minutes felt like hours as I waited for the police to arrive. When they finally showed up, the dark blue sedan was still there, but Mark was gone. The officer searched the car but found no clues or anything to identify him. The officer assured me that they would keep an eye on my house and advised me to stay vigilant. But as the night wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every creak of the floorboards and rustle of the wind made me jump. Days turned into weeks and I couldn't escape the feeling of dread. The dark blue sedan still parked near my house, empty and ominous. I couldn't sleep, fearing that Mark would return and finish whatever that he had planned. I installed security cameras and alarms, trying to ease my anxiety, but it only made me more paranoid. Every shadow and every noise became a threat in my mind. Months passed, but the fear never left me. I couldn't trust anyone anymore, always wondering if they were connected to Mark in some way. I stopped using Craigslist altogether, afraid that he might track me down again. I often wondered what Mark's intentions were. Was he just a creepy stalker, or did he have something more sinister in mind? The uncertainty haunted me, and I couldn't escape the feeling that he was still out there, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The horror of that day stayed with me, and I became a prisoner in my own home. Every sound outside made my heart race, and every knock on the door filled me with terror. I was trapped in a never-ending nightmare, and I don't know if I would ever wake up from it.